This is the Traktor S4 Mark III that was sent to me by Native Instruments with no obligation whatsoever, so I'm not required to make a video or anything. After a month of using this thing, I actually realized that it's so good that I sold my Pioneer DDJ1000. Let's talk about it. So again, Native Instruments did send me this controller, but they're not paying me or anything. So anything that I say about this controller is my own opinion. I'm going to divide this video into two. Number one is going to be the controller itself, and then number two is going to be the software that comes with it, which is Traktor Pro 4. And then in between, I'm going to be stating why I think it's so much better than the Pioneer DDJ1000 that I ended up selling. But first, I want to give you some context. So I consider myself to be somebody that's tech savvy, meaning that I buy a piece of gear because it's objectively better for me and my use cases, not because a lot of people think so. But when it comes to controllers, for some reason, I always followed the masses, meaning that every controller that I've had since forever has been from one company. I didn't get a chance to experience any other thing. But now I'm realizing that there's a lot of variety, and somebody who makes content about these things, I need to try out everything and make content for you guys so that you can make more informed decisions, unlike the younger version of me. This video is about this one, and it's the best one that I've tried so far. So every crucial feature that's on the DDJ1000 is here. It's a 4-channel controller, 1, 2, 3, 4. It has 8 performance pads, although they're clicky, unlike the Pioneer DDJ1000 where it's like mushy and feels nice, but they're here. There's a separate control for the booth and master. And then there's the jog adjust, which is only found in high-end controllers, and this is a high-end controller. So you control it by pressing down the jog button and then spinning it anti-clockwise to make it loose. So now it's a lot looser. And then by pressing the same button and turning it clockwise, stiffens it that way. Now it's a lot stiffer. And then at the back of it, there's Pro connections, including the TRS, XLR, and RCA. Also, there's more that's here that's not on the DDJ1000, and there's stuff that's on the DDJ1000 that is not here, but those things are not crucial, so they don't make or break the controller. But here's the impressive part though. See, this thing, like I said, has all the features, but it's somehow smaller. So I usually get booked to play using my own equipment, whether it's like an event or a party or whatever, and I take my equipment there to go play. And this one, since it's smaller, it's a lot easier to travel with. So if I'm getting the same features, but I can lighten the load, then why not do that? Like, it didn't make sense to me. And then another impressive thing about this controller is the jog wheels. They move. So if you press play, they spin, which is really cool. This is obviously better for scratch DJs, you know, people who like a more tactile feel, but it's nice that it's here. There's two very popular controllers that have this feature that I can think of right now. It's the Rain 1 and the Pioneer DJ Rev 7. But both of those are, number one, 2-channel controllers instead of 4, and they cost almost twice the price of this one. I mean, those two are very good controllers and they are better in certain categories, but you get the point that I'm trying to make. So now we're going to move on from the S4 to Traktor Pro 4. The number one advantage that it has over Pioneer DJ is that there's no subscriptions. Like, you buy it once and you keep it for ever. A lot of companies right now are adopting this subscription model, which, if you think about it, is just there to make them more money. Really, there's nothing else to it. And something that Pioneer DJ did that I don't really like is that on the new version of Rekordbox, older gear doesn't work. But if you subscribe, then it works. This means that the software actually works fine, but they just want you to pay, which is really ridiculous. It's kind of like the BMW thing where they charge you per month to unlock the seat heating. I mean, obviously it got cancelled after some time, but Pioneer DJ is charging you for a feature that is embedded in the software. They just want you to pay for it. That's just scummy. I don't understand it. I just don't understand it. So it's really nice to see that Native Instruments is not really about that. You buy it once and you keep it forever. And then another advantage that Traktor has over Rekordbox is that it is more technical. I'm actually still learning it. Like, Pioneer DJ, they did a good job with Rekordbox because it's straightforward. However, with Traktor, it's a lot more complicated, but it's not so complicated that it's unusable. It's a lot more technical and you can do way more than you can on Rekordbox. So that can be an advantage and a disadvantage. But I think from where I'm standing right now, it's an advantage. I'm just learning. But once I figure it out, there's a lot more that I'd be able to do that I wouldn't be able to do on Rekordbox. Another very cool feature that Traktor has is flexible beat grids. So I'm assuming if you're watching my videos, you already know what tempo is. It's like the speed of the track, the speed that the track is playing at. And there are tracks that change the speed within the track, meaning that it plays maybe, let's say, at 120, and then in the middle of the track, it switches to 100. This is a very cool feature, and it's very easy for people to make a video about it and rave. But for me, it was an actual problem that needed solving. That's why it was so easy for me to sell the Pioneer DDJ 1000. This is Jaden Lewis. I fell in love with his music long before we met, and there was a track that he had. It's a remix of Still Dre by Dr. Dre, where the tempo switches. So this is the DM that I sent him back in 2019, which is 3 years before I met him. Hey bro, your remix of Still Dre by Dr. Dre, when the BPM drops, what does it drop to? I'm a DJ and I want to play it, but I always mess up during that part.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it.
So again, this is the track. Starts like this. And then it goes to this part. And then it goes back to a higher BPM. So there was basically no way for me to know what it's changing to, and I couldn't apply effects because they would be off, and I couldn't also transition from that track because, again, I don't know the BPM. Turns out that the track is playing at 140 BPM, and then it drops down to 100 and then goes back to 140. So when I tried Traktor 4 and it actually switches the BPM, I was sold. So again, you can see when it's playing here, it's 140. And then if I fast forward to here, it switches to 100. And then now let's move on to stems. I think everybody understands what stems are at this point. It's like when you're playing a track and you want to isolate the vocals and kill the drums, you can do that. At the time of recording this video, Pioneer has updated their stems. They're now good and usable. But when I got this controller, which is like a month ago, they were horrible. They were unusable. I made a video on TikTok showing just how bad those stems were compared to this one. And then if you're using something like the FLX10, then you're gonna get better stems on Serato. However, if you're using Rekordbox, I wouldn't really suggest that you use those stems. However, Traktor does have really good stems, and what's nice is you can actually apply different effects to different stems. So if you want to apply an effect to just the vocal and nothing else, you can't do that. Other software, you'd have to isolate them and then apply the effect to the whole track, just isolate it. However, with Traktor, you can play the whole track but apply an effect to just the vocal, which is really crazy. However, there is a downside, and that is it takes way too long for Traktor to separate the stems. So it creates a file like an MP4 file with multiple channels where each channel is a separate stem, and it takes just too long. Personally, this is not an advantage for me because I don't use stems in the DJ software itself. I separate them in FL Studio, or maybe download the stems from like DJ City and then bring them in to the software. So I'd play like a beat in here and then a vocal that is already separated on the right. There's also the pattern player, which is kind of like the step sequencer in FL Studio. So basically you can separate stems on this side and then add your own drums on this side the same way that you would on FL Studio, which is really cool. I'm not gonna get too deep into it because I'm not currently using it and I'm still figuring it out, but the fact that you can do something like that is just crazy. Again, it adds to the point that I'm trying to make, that Traktor is a more technical software than Rekordbox. All these things that I mentioned and more that I haven't are the reason why it was so easy for me to sell my Pioneer DDJ 1000. And I did love it. I did love that controller, but this just made sense for me. And since I do play at events where I'm using CDJs because Pioneer has the market share, I did buy the Pioneer DDJ FLX4, which is their cheapest controller, just to stay in their ecosystem so that when I get to the CDJs, it's not something that's entirely foreign to me because now I'm used to Traktor. But for now, this Traktor S4 is going to be my main controller, especially if I'm booked in a place where I need to bring my own equipment because it's smaller and it's easier to travel with. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.